This is David Preston, and this is going to be a series of videos that I am going to do walking you through and explaining the different illustrations and maps that I have related to Mobile and the Civil War. Many of the illustrations that I have are from Harper's Weekly. Some of them are not, and I'll try to point the ones out that are not from Harper's Weekly as we go along. Most of the maps are from the official record of the war put out by Congress after the war. This first video is going to be the illustrations and the maps related to the Battle of Mobile Bay, the naval battle that was conducted between Admiral Buchanan, also known as Old Buck, and Admiral David Farragut of the Union Navy. This picture that we have here is an illustration of the Confederate forces lined up at Fort Morgan. It is from Harper's Weekly and just gives you an idea of what the Federal forces would be looking at as they were coming up the mouth of the bay, getting ready for the battle. This is the actual illustration from Harper's Weekly of the USS Hartford and other Union ships taking on the CSS Ram, the CSS Tennessee during the Battle of Mobile Bay. This was the penultimate action of the battle that ended with the surrender of Admiral Buchanan and the fall of the mouth of the bay to the Union forces. This is a map that's included in a bigger frame that I have, but it is a map of similar to what Paul has in his house, of the route that was taken by the Federal forces through the mouth of the bay, and it shows where Fort Morgan was at the time of the war and the different batteries that went along with it. And here's a closer view of the Fort Morgan. This was a page out of Harper's Weekly after the war, and it shows all of the spots where the USS Hartford was hit during the Battle of Mobile Bay, another map of the route that they took, the lighthouse at Fort Morgan, and the damage that it sustained, and another look at Fort Morgan as it would have looked during the battle. Now I'm missing one of my pieces in my collection that I've loaned out to a friend of mine who's an artist who is doing a illustration, a painting based on that same illustration. I can describe it to you, and I'll try to post a picture in the group once I get it back. But it is a picture of the Federal fleet as it would look coming up the mouth of the bay, with all of the wooden ships in a straight line, and of course the cannons on the ships firing at the forts and the other ships, as well as the forts and the Confederate ships firing on it. And then this gives you a better idea of what was going, the different maps going on during the battle. The map of the entire bay, a map of the entire central Gulf Coast from New Orleans all the way to Pensacola, and forces from New Orleans and Pensacola did come over and fight in the land campaign of, to take Mobile. But this was just giving you a general idea of what the different areas are along the central Gulf Coast during the war. And this is another illustration. This is not from Harper's Weekly, but another publication during the time. But it is another illustration of the Battle of Mobile Bay and the engagement between the Union wooden ships and the ironclad CSS Tennessee. And another illustration of the penultimate action in the battle between the CSS Tennessee and the wooden ships of the Union forces. And that is my collection pertaining to the Battle of Mobile Bay. This is just the naval battle and does not include my entire collection, look out for other videos coming soon of the rest of my collection.